Okay, guys, Dr. J.W. Morrison, theologist. I'm really having a great time with the NDIS in the sense that it's so fascinating how bad it's become. Let's have a look.
Well, the hits just keep on coming with the National Disability Insurance Scheme. Amid new revelations, the agency has been rorted up to $2 billion, including on drugs, alcohol and new cars. Some people on the NDIS are receiving as much as $2 million worth of services every year, and that's just for an individual. At the current rate, the cost of the scheme will reach almost $100 billion within a decade. It already costs more than Medicare and will soon outstrip Defence. The reality is the NDIS now has 600,000 participants.
The NDIS will cost more than the defence of this nation. This is really going to spoil it for the genuine people.
And is growing by tens of thousands per year. It's not what it was designed for. It was designed for the most severely disabled, yet those with autism and developmental delay account for 45%. Joining me now is psychiatrist Dr. Tanveer Ahmed. Good to see you again. Look, $2 billion in rorts. How can it go on at its current rate?
It's funny that this will become this key aspect of Australia. People know Australia for all sorts of things, but in the next 5 or 10 years, we will be known as the most disabled nation on earth.
See, we'll be known as the most disabled nation on earth because and this is the sad part for the genuine people, if you enable people to be disabled rather than fixing it, then that attracts people that can take advantage of that. And this is what's happened with this endless money extravaganza with NDIS. People have gone, hang on a minute, they've had friends or people that they've known that have worked in it, and they've watched the lucrativeness of what they've been earning as providers, and they've gone, hang on a sec, gosh, if they can tap into it, why can't I? And they have. And people have profited phenomenally from the disabled part of our society, which is very, very sad. Very, very sad, because it spoils it for the people that are genuine. I had a partner for a couple of years who was in the NDIS, and she did a phenomenal job for the people that she looked after. So it's people like that that are going to suffer if the hammer really comes down on this, because there are people that are genuinely doing their best to try and provide for these disabled people.
Being one of the most prosperous, peaceful ones too. And it's all because of the NDIS. Now, I guess what I want to say, Danica, I think that all these fraud stories, they don't surprise me. I know they surprise Bill Shorten, but we're focusing on fraud. But arguably, this is the smoke from the fire. The fundamental design of the scheme is flawed. Both sides of the government are to blame. We can't just blame Labor either. There were 3 terms of the Liberal government, and they did very little to reform this stuff. And now it's got so entrenched. And arguably, the question is, can it actually be reformed, or does it need a fundamental overhaul? But the problem is more and more of the population, a bit like superannuation, are going to be, it's going to become too entrenched, and it's too hard to change it. Look, at a bigger level, Danica, what's going on is we have a medicalisation of the human experience. We have huge financial incentives to be disabled. And we have a dilution of the term disabled. Half the money is going to mental health ailments. But what's really going on is a broader modern trend in Western societies, and Australia will possibly lead, of this proportion of the population that are essentially dependent and demoralised and have very little incentive to work, and they're propped up by schemes like both the disability pension and NDIS. That's partly what's going on. That's this bigger trend, and it's like a freight train. The NDIS has made it a freight train, and while it's meant to have served the severely disabled, it's become something far, far bigger.
Well, this is the problem because, as I said, there's now 600,000 participants. Those with autism and developmental delay, Tanveer, account for 45%. Is this realistic?
Well, no, absolutely not. I mean, Australia now has the highest rate, just about the highest rates of autism in the Western world, and all these. So when you're out there in the public, you just see these people with 5 different diagnoses, and they're all a bit grey. And often, what's really going on, problems with self-regulation. They end up losing illicit drugs, and all this NDIS fraud is sometimes to do with drug use and all sorts of. They're going on cruises, etc. It invites it's incentivized for excess and fraud and corruption. And to be honest, we can't even blame the users. Like it is the fundamental design of the scheme. There just aren't guardrails on the spending. But what's happening now is there will be possibly, if not an overreach, there's still people who are severely disabled. And I would say they're increasingly the minority. They're increasingly the minority of the users here, and they actually get penalised. They're the ones that actually get penalised, and I have patients like that, and they genuinely need the help, and they're struggling to access it. But I think the bigger question politically is, can it actually be reformed, or does it need some fundamental overhaul? And is that even possible, given how entrenched it's become in our life? Both, not just with people getting it, there's also a huge employment industry around it. Of all sorts of workers, and we could even ask, okay, was this more like a national socialism scheme where we're funding all these people to essentially look like they're doing stuff? They're sort of walking around and doing stuff and getting paid and seemingly doing stuff. So there's some very interesting debates here going, and it goes to the heart of some modern trends. And Australia is leading the world in it, and not for good reasons.
No, I think you're absolutely spot on. I mean, who knows what the solution is? It's not even a means-tested scheme.
Well, I would say the Liberal Party's been weak on this, and I think it's because it's too entrenched. I know Dutton's come out in a small way, but for all the heat Shorten gets, and he should, and it's a Labor-designed scheme, the Liberal Party has been weak in really attacking this and trying to reform it.
Yeah, look, it's a tough one, and nobody has seemed to have gotten a hold of it. Tanveer Ahmed, we've got to go. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it.
And we'll look at Peter Kremlin from 2 months ago.
But let's bring in my panel now. Shadow Environment Minister Jonathan Duniam and Senior Fellow at the Menzies Research Centre, columnist, of course, with The Australian, Nick Cater. Well, Nick, let's start with the NDIS. All the rorts. I mean, I've stopped being shocked by them. It's a $42 billion scheme. But on radio this morning, Ben Ford went through some extra ones I didn't know about. I mean, I knew about the strip clubs, but you've now got providers offering to take clients on pub crawls, even a weed or marijuana festival near Byron Bay. Bill Shorten says, yes, we're going to reform it. He's put laws into the parliament, says he's going to crack down on it all. But what sort of hope do you have that Labor's serious here?
Well, this is the problem, Peter, and I think probably as you've seen today, you've got the states involved. I mean, who actually runs this thing? It seems that the federal government don't seem to be able to do anything without the state's approval, and they're not going to approve this if it involves a lack of money. But you put your finger on the problem here, it's provider capture on an enormous scale. You've got these provider groups, some are very good, but a lot of them have just learnt very well how to get the most money out of the system.
And that's the secret to this, see? It's very easy to get the money out of the system. It's so easy, and people from all over the world are looking at this and going, let's go get some of this extravaganza, and it's spoiling it for the genuine people.
Presumably on behalf of their client, but so much of it, of course, is self-serving. And Labor's got to fix this. It's Labor's problem. It's Labor's scheme. All the faults embedded in this scheme were put in there by Labor back in the Gillard days. It has to fix it, and it has to fix it this term of government.
No, it can't fix it.
And you were spot on too, because the way it's constructed, every state's got to agree, and the spend is uncapped. So if you're a pink bat sort of a dodgy guy, and we saw them, remember, in the Gillard years, this is a honeypot. But I mean, these things should be ruled out. I mean, it's sex trips and weed trips. No, it's for medical care and medical care only. John, I talked to you.
And guys, if you haven't subscribed to my channels, why don't you do that now? Just press the button on this channel. So I found this.
Okay, let me ask you quickly about the NDIS, because I'm about to have Bill Shorten on the program as well. I just thought that stunning. I think we already knew the extent of the rorts of the NDIS, but when it's laid out by the guy who's charged with clamping down on fraud, and he is essentially saying, he can only do some things at the fringes, and the extent of fraud and rorting and overspending of taxpayers' money in the system is so extensive. I mean, this legislation before Parliament isn't really enough.
Well, this legislation before Parliament is what is supposed to reduce the limit of the expenditure on the NDIS. You'll recall that it was growing at around 14%. I actually think it went up to around 21% in growth in expenditure. And this is supposed to bring it back down into the 8% per annum range. 8% growth in a payment is still enormous. It's the second largest payment in the budget. It's around $45 billion, which is why I think that taxpayers have a very high expectation of the integrity around the expenditure. And when they hear stories like this shocking stories of how NDIS funds are being misused, well, that, I think, they rightly have questions to answer, or to ask. But at the same time, we know that the NDIS is a really important program. There's around 660,000 Australians that rely on it. It helps some of our most disadvantaged Australians. We need to have not just a sustainable system, but a system in which all Australians can trust is being run with the right integrity framework around it to make sure that the money is getting to where it is needed the most, to ensure that those people with profound disabilities can have, be fully immersed into the economy, into society, and have rich and full lives.
Jane, thank you. We look forward to talking to you again soon. Okay, let me ask you a quick...
And so, okay, guys, I'm studying the NDIS scandal, and I'm going through all the stuff about it, and I'm looking at all the different presentations and this, that, and all the other. And then, just let me check what's going on here. Then I find, let's just have a look, NDIS, filters, today. And I find this guy. Now watch this, guys. Watch this.
Are you an NDIS participant? Are you approved for short-term accommodation to achieve your NDIS goals? If so, this message is for you. Are you someone with support needs who may need to give their support team a break? Then this type of STA is perfect for you. It could also be to build independence, learn new skills, and make new friends in a different environment. This is why Careco Disability will be there with you to organize your short-term accommodation getaway to the jewel of Moreton Bay, Tangalooma Resort. There's great accommodation, delicious meals, ferry transport to the island, and a variety of activities included in your getaway, from dolphin feeding to beach games and water sports like kayaking and snorkeling. If this sounds like a fun way to achieve your NDIS goals, then you also need to join the Careco activity team. Why do this for yourself? Because you deserve time to relax, recharge, and enjoy life outside your regular routine. And STA is there to give you an opportunity to transition into different things and also, if needed, give you time to make new friends and new relationships. Tangalooma offers this, a chance to meet new people, develop new skills, and share memorable experiences with family or new friends. It's an opportunity to refresh your mind and body in a beautiful, tranquil setting. What's next? Leave your details below and let Careco Disability Support take care of the rest. A dedicated team member will be in touch as soon as possible to begin helping you with your planning to join the Careco activity team.
Guys, I don't know, is that, hang on.
Hey, today's video
Is that what it's all about? Is that what NDIS
Are you an NDIS participant?
Is this what it's all about? I don't know. Yeah, there's a part of me that says, yeah, disabled people deserve to enjoy a certain part of their life and, get out in amongst these. But look, am I missing something here? This is the part that confuses me about NDIS. And obviously this man's encouraging people to bring people there. But my goodness me, is that what that's more like some kind of multifunctional holiday that provides every concept of a holiday in one place. He's got the right idea, but is he approaching the right people? I don't know. Is this what they're trying to stop? I don't know. Maybe yous know. It definitely doesn't seem right to me, but I'm not going to begrudge people if that's what it's a part of. I'll see yous on the next one.